Welcome to Time About the Movies. Today we are taking a look at the 6 films that make up the last weekend of August 2013. No intro, mostly because it's 10 to 2 in the morning, so I'm trying to get this done quickly so I can go to bed. So let's just go ahead and get to it. We have a lot of films to get to here, and this really isn't a spectacular weekend overall, so we can get through these pretty quickly. So our first movie that we have here is One Direction, This Is Us. And no, you did not misread that. The director of this movie is the same man that gave us Super Size Me. What a goddamn travesty he's been gone from since then. Okay, I say this like this is a bad movie. It's not really that bad. It's just a movie where it's just like, I really don't care about One Direction overall. But this is a documentary film in the vein of something like Justin Bieber, Never Say Never, and Katy Perry, Part of Me, which actually was 2 films that he was actually trying to direct, but unfortunately he never got a chance to direct those movies, so he was given One Direction. So it takes place. It's an intimate, all-access look at the global musical phenomenon, because these guys were a phenomenon back in the day. Some of you may not remember it, but I would like to think that you would, considering that it's only been 13 years since this movie came out. Actually, no, 12 years since then, so you should know who these guys are. Of course, everyone knows who these guys are now, but One Direction was first put into a group on X Factor in 2010, and This Is Us contains live concert footage from their Take Me Home tour at London's O2 Arena, and footage from their live pre- and post-X Factor appearance, and give an insight into the preparation for their concert and ultimately what it's like to be One Direction. It also features appearances by Martin Scorsese, his daughter Francesca Scorsese. Why can I not say this name? Francesca Scorsese. Okay. I still can't say it. Martin Scorsese's daughter. Let's just go with that. Chris Rock and footballer Cristiano Ronaldo. And to be perfectly honest with you, I remember nothing about this movie. The only thing I ever remember about this movie was when Spill.com was still around and Co-Host 3000 was forced to go see this movie. And he had one of those hilarious stories. Whether or not it's true or not, it was very hilarious how he told the story about how he was the only guy in the movie theater at the premiere screening for this movie. And here's just some little bits of snippets from it.
How many? And I was just like, just one. Oh, just you. Oh, are you a fan? And I was like, I'm looking at him and I'm like, yes. So he gives me the ticket and he gives me the 3D glass and he's like, enjoy. And I'm walking out and I swear to God I heard him say, homo. What? Hey, how's it going? I'm going to sit way in the back up of the theater just so I can avoid these people judging me. Till I hear a gang of girls go, look! Ah! I'm like, what the hell? And I thought there was somebody behind me, like maybe one of their girlfriends or something came in. But no, they're staring at me going, oh yeah! Woo! You are the coolest, most amazing dad ever! And I'm there with my hot dog looking around like, oh, you kids? Like, yeah! And the one girl goes, I wish you were my dad! Woo! So they are screaming like, yeah! Standing ovation, I shit you not. Wow. And I'm standing there looking like Ash from Evil Dead 2. My hot dog in one hand, my cherry coke in the other, no!
Once again, probably could have been completely fabricated, but it was still freaking hilarious, and you gotta listen to the whole thing in general. You can easily find it online. Just simply look for One Direction, This Is Us, Co-Host 3000, and yeah, you should be able to find the full uncut version of that. That's just from the little animated segment that was put up online, but you get the idea. I remember nothing about this movie except for that alone, so that should pretty much tell you everything you need to know about how much I don't really care about this movie in general. Not because I don't care about the band in particular. I mean, some of these guys have actually gone on to do some good music overall. I mean, Harry Styles has, I think, gone on to have probably the most successful of the careers, with not just the music career he's had, with Sign of the Times being a pretty good song, but he was also in Dunkirk, too. I mean, he's done some good movie work, too. So, but yeah, other than that, though, I really don't remember much about this movie at all, so take that for what you will. So there you go. That's One Direction's This Is Us. So let's go ahead and move on to our next movie. Probably the biggest surprise hit of the entire weekend, even though, considering that nobody even knew who the main guy was. But here he is, releasing a movie that becomes one of the more unexpected hits of the year, and that is Instructions Not Included.
Instructions Not Included.
¿Cómo se dice? Pasa.
Raisin.
Hi. Raisin. Raisin.
Only in theaters August 30th. Rated PG-13.
So this is a movie from Eugenio Derbez, and you might not know who this person is. In fact, most of you probably don't even know who he was until you saw him in stuff like Jack and Jill, and then Girl in Progress, and of course more recently in stuff like Dora and the Lost City of Gold. But this guy's been around, been working in the Hollywood industry since 1974. He's 64 years old. And this was around the time when his name was really becoming more prevalent with more movies in general. And it mostly started because of Jack and Jill. He was in that movie. But he had done the voice for many different characters for different Spanish Latin American versions of movies. Like, he was the voice of... He does a lot of Eddie Murphy stuff for, like, Mulan, Dr. Dolittle, Shrek, the Shrek films. He does Mushu, Donkey. He was in 102 Dalmatians. He did Hellboy 2, The Golden Army. I mean, he's done a lot of... essentially a lot of Spanish dubbing for a lot of different movies in general. So he was just coming into his own here. And the fact that this movie was a real unexpected hit that made over $100 million without a big marketing campaign behind it. And it didn't even get a big theatrical release overall. This thing only opened up in 348 theaters, and yet it made over $22,000 per screen. On $7.8 million on its opening weekend, and went on to gross over $100 million. And it's a movie where, you know, it didn't really have a big marketing push overall, but the Mexican audiences, the Latino audiences really came together and made it the big hit that it was in general. It was a big hit, and it kind of made this guy into a star in general here, and actually led to a remake of this movie with Omar Sy from Jurassic World and the In-Betweeners in France. Like, it's a really odd situation with this movie in general here. The premise of this movie is that Eugenio Derbez stars as a Mexican playboy who's suddenly saddled with a love child at his doorstep and sets off to Los Angeles to find the mother. So, not really anything too smart or too engaging about this movie. In fact, it took me a long time to actually see this film because I really had no interest for it whatsoever, even despite how good it was doing overall, because it just didn't look that amazing overall. I mean, the game plan, I think, did it much better, and even then, that wasn't a great movie overall. This film in particular, I watched it. It's alright. It's nothing really that amazing. It's nothing really that spectacular. It's just... it is what it is. It's the type of film you expect. It's kind of like The Pacifier. It's like The Game Plan. It's like a movie where, you know, you got this guy who's completely unprepared for parenthood, but you know sooner or later, as time goes on throughout the course of the movie, he'll learn to love the child that he's involved with here, and, you know, he has to make the decision of whether or not he wants to keep the child, and then by the end, he knows he wants to keep the child overall. So it's not really a shocker what happens at the end of this movie. Nothing really groundbreaking happens here, but it isn't that bad of a movie. It's just kind of a film where it's just kind of like, it's there. It's not doing anything really that bad or really that good overall. It's just kind of there. You see it, and it's just passable at the very least. It's a movie where it is just kind of like, yeah, it is what it is. And yeah, it's just kind of a mediocre film in general here. Nothing too spectacular, nothing too amazing, but compared to some of the other movies we have this weekend, it's definitely a lot better. Case in point with our next movie, which, yeah, this one, I don't know what the hell they were thinking with this one here, but we have Ethan Hawke and Selena Gomez starring in the action thriller. It's so bizarre. Sorry, I can't even talk straight. The action thriller Getaway.
Getaway. Rated PG-13. Starts August 30th.
Hey, it's cool we get to see the grabber taking these kids without killing them. Like this feels like a precursor to the Black Phone, except it's not turning into a horror movie. And yeah, this is really fucking stupid, man. This is one of the stupidest movies I have ever seen in my entire life. And just you should expect anything less from the same director that gave us the masterpiece of garbage. Or I'm sorry, the masterpiece that is Dungeons and Dragons, the 2000 film. Yes, this is that same director that gave us that movie. Ethan Hawke stars as former race car driver Brent Magna, who's pitted against the clock as he commands a custom Shelby Super Mustang, taking it and its unwitting owner on a high-speed adventure at the command of a mysterious villain on a race against time to save the life of his kidnapped wife. So yeah, this is a movie that's been done to death before. This feels like a watered-down mockbuster version of Drive when you really look at it. To the point where, when your other big star in the movie is Jon Voight and Bruce Payne. Bruce Payne's a guy that you used to see a lot back in the day in the 1990s. I mean, this is the guy that was the villain in Passenger 57. And sure enough, he was also in Dungeons and Dragons, directed by the same director. I mean, this is a straight up. Oh, and Paul Freeman is in this movie. The late great Paul Freeman, who was he's not late great because he he's Ivan is to a lot of older people he is Renee Belloc from Raiders of the Lost Ark, but to the kids in the '90s, including myself, he's Ivan. That's Ivan Ooze from Power Rangers the movie. I mean, when you're casting guys like that for a movie by Warner Brothers, directed by the director of Dungeons and Dragons, you know that you're in for a really, really bad movie. I mean, this is a terrible, terrible movie that just makes no sense whatsoever. Nothing about this film makes any sense in general. It doesn't even know whether or not it's supposed to be taken seriously or not, but it's one of the stupidest movies I have ever seen. It might be the worst thing Warner Brothers has ever been associated with since probably Torque. And that movie is also this movie and Torque are very similar in the stupidity levels, but at least Torque knew how stupid it really was. Like, Torque at least had a sense of humor about itself. It wasn't a great movie, but at least it knew how hilarious it was. This is taking it straightforward seriously, and it just fails to a whole nother level. And really, from the moment you see from the director of Dungeons and Dragons, that should have been your first warning sign to get the F on out of here. And yeah, most people did not buy into it. It was a major flop. What a shocker. A movie like this bombed. I mean, I could have told you that before the thing even came out. That's how bad this is. So, yeah, get away. Yeah, you should just get away from this movie, plain and simple. So yeah, with all that said, let's go ahead and move on to our next movie, and that is Closed Circuit.
November 30th, 10:43, bright sunny day, innocent people. Truck approaches from 10:45.
Well, it's nice we get to see the opening of Die Hard with a Vengeance through various cameras. Literally, a trailer makes you think like it's the beginning of Die Hard with a Vengeance. All that's missing is Summer in the City playing in the background, but it's a typical morning in London when a powerful bomb explodes in the heart of the city. After the smoke cleared, sole surviving terrorist cell member Faruka Erdogan, played by Dennis Machida, was quickly taken into custody as preparations for his trials begin. However, the government's plan to use classified evidence to prosecute the suspect leads the Attorney General, played by Jim Broadbent, to appoint Special Advocate Claudia Simmons-Howe, played by Rebecca Hall, to the case. Claudia's unique position as a government-approved defense lawyer ensures that she can review the top-secret evidence and advocate for full disclosure during the inevitable closed-session portion of the trial. Once Claudia has revealed the evidence, however, any communication with the defense team and the defendant himself is strictly forbidden. Later, when Erdogan's lawyer dies, just before the trial begins, Claudia's driven ex-lover, attorney Martin Rose, played by Eric Bana, takes his place, realizing that the previous affair could jeopardize their involvement with the case. Claudia and Martin vow to keep the relationship a well-guarded secret. In time, however, Martin's exhaustive investigation reveals evidence of a shocking conspiracy that threatens to consume them both. Now, this was written by Stephen Knight, and we've talked about some of his movies in the past, and, this is the guy that written a lot of good stuff, like Dirty Pretty Things, Eastern Promises is another really good movie of his. He's made a lot of stuff that hasn't been that great, though. I mean, this is the guy who gave us Who Wants to Be a Millionaire, but he's also the guy who's written some lackluster stuff, such as Burnt, Allied, Seventh Son. His best stuff overall has been stuff like Peaky Blinders, and he also did more recently the FX version of A Christmas Carol, which was one of the biggest disappointments I've ever seen, I can tell you that much. But the director of this movie is John Crowley. Mr. Crowley! Like, that was a horrible impression right there. Mr. Crowley! You get the idea. But he's also the guy that would later go on to direct Brooklyn with Saoirse Ronan, and then direct one of the most pretentious movies ever in The Goldfinch with Anson Elgort. But in this movie's case, this is pretty mediocre for a conspiracy thriller movie. It's one of those movies where right from the get-go, you pretty much know exactly how it's going to pan out. You know exactly what the twists and turns are going to be, and there's no shocker whatsoever when the film gets to its final point overall, and it's just kind of like, yeah, it really does feel like a film that is just... It's a movie that really feels like it wants to get out of there. And I think Focus Features put this out on this particular weekend because of what they happened with the successes of The Constant Gardener and The American, these movies that weren't expected to be big hits overall. They figured, let's do the same thing with this movie. I mean, we should be able to get a hit out of this, and no, they didn't get a hit out of this. This thing did not do as well as they expected to. It only bought $6.5 million. Quickly came and went, and really, it's not a shocker to see why. It's a lame brain, generic-ass conspiracy theory movie that just doesn't work, and yeah, there's better movies like this that you can definitely check out that are much better than this film, no question about it. So So with that said, let's go ahead and move on to our next movie, and that is Brian De Palma's latest film, Rachel McAdams and Noomi Rapace, starring in the erotic thriller Passion.
Perfect murder.
On one hand, hey, it's Brian De Palma returning to what made his name back in the day. The bad news is, this is one of his lesser films in general, but this is an erotic thriller, which you have Christine, played by Rachel McAdams, who possesses the natural elegance and casual ease associated with one who has a healthy relationship with money and power. She takes particular pleasure in exercising control over her admiring protege, Isabel, played by Noomi Rapace, leading her one step at a time even deeper into a game of seduction and manipulation, dominance, and humiliation. And like I said, Brian De Palma, if you're going to get somebody to direct an erotic thriller and make it work, Brian De Palma is your guy to go to here. This is the guy that gave us such masterpieces of vintage classic, masterpieces of the erotic thriller genre, like Dress to Kill, Body Double, even his more recent stuff like Femme Fatale, The Black Dahlia. These are movies that are one of the reasons why Brian De Palma is such a reliable director when it comes to this genre. But even then, even with him making as many classic movies as this is definitely one of those ones where it really fails to get exactly what you're hoping for with a film like this. And it's a bummer of a movie, man. It's a movie where if you're going to get somebody to direct a film like this, Brian De Palma's your guy to do it. But unfortunately, it's one of those things, kind of like with Ridley Scott. He kind of lost his way with making erotic thrillers because, yeah, a movie that has Noomi Rapace and Rachel McAdams in an erotic thriller should get you excited. I mean, should get you titillated by what you're going to see here because, there's going to be some pretty good sex scenes with them, you would think. Even then, it's not really worth it in the end. And the mystery itself really is not that great overall. It's a movie where there's definitely pieces of something that could maybe work to his favor, but it just isn't there in this movie, man. It was a movie that I was kind of looking forward to seeing because of what Brian De Palma had done in the past, and it really let me down in the end, like it did a lot of people in general here. Plus, they kind of changed the ending around from the original version of this, because this is an English-language remake of a French film, I think, from 2010, from French film called Love Crime, and supposedly they changed the ending of that movie around, and yeah, when you do that, you better have a good reason for it, but the ending they went with here just seems really generic, seems really forced overall. It just didn't work in the end. It's a movie where you expect so much more from a director like Brian De Palma, and he just doesn't have that knack anymore. Not to say that the guy can't direct anymore, but he just kind of has lost his way at this point. This is actually one of his last couple films he did, with the last one being Domino, featuring Nikolaj Coster-Waldau from Game of Thrones, which kind of is his last crime thriller overall, and even that one wasn't that great overall. So, yeah, you could definitely say that this guy was kind of petering out of his career overall, but doesn't take away from his great stuff overall he did in the past. So, but this definitely was a film that really didn't seem like it was heading in the right direction overall. So, yeah, not a great film from Brian De Palma, unfortunately. So let's go ahead and end this on sort of a better note here. Let's end the show with this film here. Kathryn Hahn, starring alongside Josh Radnor, Juno Temple, and Jane Lynch in the indie comedy Afternoon Delight.
I should surround myself with good people if I want good things to happen.
You guys! I've really got this. Oh, yeah!
And again, this is the type of movie where you expect something kind of fun, kind of quirky in its own way because of the fact that, you got these notable names in here. You have Rachel, played by Kathryn Hahn, who's a quick-witted and lovable stay-at-home mother, frustrated with the realities of preschool auctions, a lackluster sex life with her husband, played by Josh Radnor, and career that's gone kaput. She visits a strip club to spice up her marriage and meets McKenna, played by Juno Temple, a stripper she adopts as her live-in nanny. This is a movie that really does give her an opportunity for character. It gives an opportunity for not just Kathryn Hahn, but Josh Radnor and Juno Temple a chance to shine in their own leading roles here. And it does work overall with them involved in it. I think they're the best things about the film in general. It also gives the writer and director, Jill Soloway, who's written a lot of stuff that you might not be familiar with, but you've definitely seen. Stuff like The Oblongs, United States of Terror, How to Make It in America, 6 Feet Under. The show she did after this, which I think this is the same the person that did the Jeffrey Tambor show, Transparent, apparently. But, yeah, same person that did this. But overall, interesting movie, nothing spectacular overall. The performances, I think, do keep it overall, but it doesn't do a great job of giving that film the edge to make it a great underrated gem. I only say you see this if you want to see some really good performances overall from these people, the story is very predictable to guess what's going to happen, whose relationship's going to fall apart, how will the main characters end up by the end of the film. It's worth seeing it for the performances overall, but just don't expect a new underground classic with it. It is what it is. Nothing too spectacular, nothing too amazing. Afternoon delight, not really a great delight overall, but still good enough to say it's worth it for a one-time watch, but nothing else.